Rams fans, we have breaking news on today's episode of the Rams Report as Rams left tackle Alaric Jackson has been arrested by Los Angeles police last night and booked for felony domestic violence and battery. On today's episode of the Rams Report presented by Prize Picks, we're going to break down the details of the situation as we understand it right now, all of the details of this case as we understand it at this time. And then we're going to try to talk about what it means for this Rams team. Of course, with the I'm not going to say our understanding of this situation is full at this time, but we need to address what this might mean for the Rams from a football perspective as well. But again, if you missed it this morning, it was breaking. The New York Post, I believe, was the first on this, or it's TMZ. Offensive lineman Alaric Jackson arrested on suspicion of felony domestic violence. Of course, everything at this time is still alleged. This is still ongoing legal proceedings. But you've got to be kidding. I think that has to be the instant reaction from every Rams fan right now. Of everything that's gone right for us so far this offseason, of everything that's been going so well, of how high the highs have been over the last couple of weeks, to get hit with something like this, it is just you've got to be kidding me moment. This is just not what we need right now. But I will tell you guys, we are not going to speculate around this situation. We're not going to do any sort of beyond speculation. We're going to talk about what this might look like for the team, but we're not going to speculate around the details of the case or around what Alaric may or may not have done. I'm going to tell you guys everything that we know that has been reported as factual information, either from the police reports or from reporters with sources close to the situation. But we're not going to do any sort of additional speculation beyond that about the case itself. Here's what we do know, though. According to NBC4, LA Ram Alaric Jackson was arrested for felony domestic battery Monday night at his San Fernando Valley home. LAPD sources tell NBC4 the 6'7", 338-pound offensive lineman was arrested at around 11 p.m. after police were called to his home. When police arrived, they learned that Jackson and a woman had gotten into a verbal argument. Sources tell NBC4 that Jackson thought the woman was recording him with her phone and allegedly tried to take the phone out of her hand. Investigators said the woman had scratch marks on her arms. Jackson was then arrested for felony domestic battery. His bail is $50,000. So again, this is what we know about this situation at this time. We know that Alaric Jackson allegedly got into a verbal altercation with a woman around her allegedly recording him with her phone. He then attempted to take the phone from her, according to sources with NBC, and then she allegedly had scratch marks on her arm, which resulted in police booking Alaric Jackson at the scene. We'll continue to discuss this and what it means for this Rams team and Alaric Jackson coming up just shortly. But first, we've got to give a shout-out to the presenting sponsor of today's video, and that is Prize Picks, guys, America's #1 sports picks app. Guys, if you're a regular viewer of the Rams Report, you know that playing with Prize Picks just makes watching sports even more exciting than it already is. And if you've never played with Prize Picks before, it's a great time to get started as well with the NBA Finals underway and the baseball season in full swing. There's no better place to get in on all that action than with Prize Picks. And it's never been easier to play than it is with Prize Picks. All you have to do is pick from 2 to 6 players. You're selecting more or less on their stat projections. Whether you're picking from points, assists, rebounds, hits, home runs, or strikeouts, they have plenty of options from all your favorite sports. Plus, they also have awesome social features that allow you to easily tail or fade your friends or your favorite creators, including me. I'm Jackson Durham with no spaces, and you guys could drop a follow and see all of my latest lineups, including this one that I've got going on right now. So you guys could tail that lineup, you could fade that lineup, whatever you want to do. Just do it with our friends over at Prize Picks. And if you're brand new to Prize Picks, make sure you use our promo code. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to receive $50 in lineups. That's code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to get an extra $50 in lineups with Prize Picks. The clickable link to download the app is in the comments and the description below. Okay. Again, this is the last thing you need right now from a number of different perspectives. Number one, it's just a tough position to be in for a guy, especially like Alaric, who has had existing other situations come up. I think this is the number one thing that comes to mind with me for Alaric. Again, we're not speculating around the additional details of this case, but you don't have to also acknowledge that you go back to 2024, And Alaric Jackson was suspended for 2 games due to a personal conduct incident, which also involved alleged misconduct with a woman. This is not the first time that Alaric Jackson has seen allegations of this sort, allegations of mishandling himself around women. And it's just not a good look. It is the last look that any NFL team wants to have from a public perspective. It is bad at the end of the day. The NFL, I think, has done a lot of work to try to distance itself from this and perennially finds itself embroiled in these situations. I think more and more, the tolerance for it is becoming lower and lower. And of course, these are all still allegations. The Rams are doing their fact-finding process right now. I am sure they have not commented around the situation at this time. However, when you have a player who has already been suspended, the NFL is going to look at this situation harder. The NFL is going to take a microscope to this situation. And that is not good news for a Rams team that does not have depth at the left tackle spot. A.J. Arcuri and David Quessenberry are not ready to fill in Alaric Jackson's shoes. But there is a real situation in which they may have to. And the other element of this is Alaric just got paid. You just paid him last offseason, and a hefty sum, too. $56 million over 3 years, of which $30 million nearly is guaranteed for an average of $18 million per year. And again, we don't know that this, I don't want to say, obviously, if this was to go much further, you would have situations where that contract could potentially void itself if clauses were to be violated. Of course, that is, we have no idea that that's going to go in. I'm not saying that this situation rises to that level, but that is written into most NFL contracts. But again, we just have no idea what is going to come of this. I hate to say I hope it's nothing. I hope that something doesn't come out of this. I hope that we are able to move past this. But until we know more around this situation, it has to be taken and treated very seriously. And I think this Rams team has to consider what it looks like if Alaric Jackson is at the very least suspended. If Alaric Jackson is at the very least handed down a significant suspension. Again, he faced a 2-game suspension for allegations off the field in 2024. As a repeat offender in the NFL's eyes, if they look at this and deem him such, the suspension would be likely to be longer. So again, you're going to the offensive tackle market with not a lot of money to play around with, guys. Taylor Decker, probably not a realistic option. He's probably going to want significantly more to come back, unless his options are so thin that you can get him for the kind of money the Rams have. Because, again, we've talked about this recently with the Rams cap situation more adjacent to Myles Garrett and the restructuring they did there. But you have about $16 million in space, of which a lot still needs to go to Ty Simpson. You haven't signed Ty Simpson yet. So again, you don't have the kind of money to bring in a Taylor Decker, to bring in a Cam Robinson maybe even. I think you're left with the lesser options of this group. We saw DJ Humphries on this team last season. That didn't go well. Again, at the end of the day, this is one of the most important positions along the offensive line. If not the most important position along the offensive line. It's one of the most important positions on the football field, really is more what I meant to say. At the end of the day, you cannot go into the season this unprepared behind Alaric Jackson. Because he has forced you to be prepared. We don't know what's going to come of this, but now you have to be ready. Now you have to be ready for anything. It's an unfortunate situation that the Rams have to find themselves in here, but if I'm Les Snead, my immediate reaction to this is, what are we doing at left tackle right now? Because how can we move forward here if Alaric Jackson's not going to be there? At least it's my immediate football reaction to this. Let me say that. That's my immediate reaction from a football perspective. That's going to do it for us on today's show, guys. At this point, we're still gathering more information. If more does come out, we will have more information out for you guys as soon as we have it. But as of right now, it's just tough news for this Rams team. It is unfortunate. It is the last thing anybody wants to hear about. But anytime there's news around this Rams team, whether it's the best news like the Myles Garrett trade or unfortunate stuff like this, we are going to cover it here on the Rams Report. So make sure you stay tuned, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.